President Ibrahim Traoré stepped off the train in southern France dressed like any other traveler. No suit, no security, no flag pinned to his chest. Just a plain brown jacket, worn shoes, and eyes that had seen too much to be surprised anymore. The station was quiet, just birds and the occasional cough of a passing train. He looked like a teacher on sabbatical or a charity worker heading to a small town. Nobody knew who he was, and that was exactly how he wanted it. He pulled out a folded paper from his pocket, handwritten directions copied from an email sent by a whistleblower weeks ago. The email was short. Children, dozens, grape farms, no school, no contracts, nobody cares. He had shown it to his cabinet. They told him to stay out of it. "It's not our jurisdiction, Mr. President. Let the French handle their own." But he couldn't forget the names. 2 of the children were from Burkina Faso. He had signed their birth certificates years ago. That morning, he took a local bus through winding vineyard roads. Old women stared at him. A man in a pickup truck slowed down, watching carefully. He kept moving. No one recognized him, just another black man walking through a foreign town. By noon, he arrived at the edge of a vast estate. Rows of grapevines stretched endlessly across dusty land. In the distance, he could hear laughter, childish, tired laughter. He moved closer, ducking behind a wire fence. Then he saw them. Children, maybe 8 years old, some younger. Dirty clothes, swollen fingers, carrying heavy baskets. His chest tightened. He crouched behind the vines, watching silently. No inspectors, no adults supervising, just children, working, fast, scared, efficient. He pulled out a tiny notebook and began to write. Time, location, number of children. Then he saw a boy trip, fall hard. No one stopped. No one helped. The boy got up quietly and limped back into the row. Ibrahim's jaw clenched. This wasn't poverty. This was exploitation, and it was happening in broad daylight. He stood up slowly, brushed the dirt from his hands, and whispered to himself, "They think nobody's watching." But they were wrong, because he was watching now. The next morning, President Ibrahim Traoré returned before sunrise. The sky was pale blue, the air damp with fog. He wore the same jacket, same worn shoes, and carried a small water bottle and a backpack. He didn't come to confront anyone, not yet. He came to listen. He waited by the edge of the vineyard, crouched behind a broken fence post. The children arrived just after dawn, walking in silence, eyes half closed with sleep. No school bags, just baskets. Among them was a boy, no older than 10, who walked with a limp. The same boy who fell yesterday. His shirt hung off one shoulder and his lips were dry. Ibrahim stepped out slowly, raising one hand. The boy froze. "It's okay," Ibrahim said gently. "I'm not here to hurt you." The boy didn't move. "What's your name?" he asked again. Silence. Then, in a dry whisper, "Khalil." Ibrahim nodded. "Nice to meet you, Khalil." The boy looked around nervously. "You're not supposed to be here." "I know," Ibrahim said. "Neither are you." Khalil frowned. "We work." "How old are you?" 8, maybe 9. I don't remember." His voice was flat, practiced, like someone who had stopped expecting kindness. "Do they pay you?" Khalil hesitated. "They give us food, sometimes, not every day." Ibrahim's heart sank. "How long have you been here?" Khalil looked away. "I came last year. My uncle said I go to school, but they sent me here instead." A shadow fell over them both. Ibrahim turned. A tall man in a vest and boots stormed toward them, face red, voice sharp. "What the hell are you doing?" Khalil dropped the basket and ran. "I was just talking to him," Ibrahim said calmly. "Get off my property," the man barked. "You have no right to be here." "I'm not trespassing," Ibrahim replied. "I'm investigating." "Investigating what?" the man sneered. "This is private land. These kids are volunteers." "They're children," Ibrahim said, voice low. "They're lucky to be here," the man snapped. "We give them a purpose." "No," Ibrahim replied. "You give them chains." The man stepped closer. "And who the hell are you?" Ibrahim looked him dead in the eyes. "You'll find out soon enough." The farm manager didn't move. His boots crunched on the dry dirt as he closed the distance between them. "You people always think you can just show up," he said, voice thick with disdain. "What, you with some African charity or something? You don't belong here." Ibrahim didn't flinch. "I'm here for the children." "Those kids are runaways, illegals," the man spat. "We give them work. They should be thankful." Ibrahim's jaw tightened. "They are not criminals. They are children, and what you're doing is illegal." The man scoffed. "Spare me the lecture. I've had 5 of your type sniffing around over the years. None came back twice." "You'll wish I don't," Ibrahim said quietly. The man stepped even closer. "You better leave before I call the police." "I think you should," Ibrahim said calmly. "Please, call them." The man paused, uncertain for a second, then stormed back toward a dusty trailer nearby, barking at someone inside. Ibrahim turned and walked back toward the fence line. Children watched him as he passed, some frozen in place, some pretending not to look. Khalil was standing behind a crate. "Are you really going to help us?" Ibrahim met his eyes. "Yes." "No one ever comes back," the boy said. "I'm not no one," Ibrahim replied. Half an hour later, 2 police cars pulled up outside the vineyard. Blue lights flashed against the grapevines. The farm manager stood with arms crossed, grinning. "They'll take care of you," he said. 2 officers, a man and a woman, approached Ibrahim. "Sir, we've had a complaint," the male officer said. "You're trespassing on private land." "I'm here investigating reports of illegal child labor," Ibrahim replied. "You're not from any agency we recognize," the woman added, glancing him up and down. "Do you have ID?" Ibrahim slowly reached into his pocket and handed her a folded card. The officer looked at it, eyebrows raised. Then he laughed. "Nice joke. President of Burkina Faso?" "It's not a joke," Ibrahim said. "I came alone for a reason. I didn't want media. I wanted truth." The officer waved to his partner. "Put him in the car." The woman reached for her cuffs. "You're making a mistake," Ibrahim said. But no one listened, because in their eyes, he was just another black man making noise. The cuffs clicked shut with mechanical finality. Ibrahim didn't resist. The farm manager stood a few feet away, arms folded, a smug grin spreading across his face. "Like I said," he chuckled, "none of your kind come back twice." The female officer tightened the cuffs and nudged Ibrahim toward the car. He moved quietly, eyes forward, heart heavy, not for himself, but for the children now watching from behind rows of grapes, small faces peeking between leaves, wide-eyed and frightened. He heard a whisper. "Will he come back?" It sounded like Khalil. The car door slammed. Inside the police vehicle, Ibrahim stared at the scratched glass separating him from the front seat. The 2 officers spoke in low tones, chuckling between sentences. He couldn't hear it all, but he caught pieces. "Said he's a president." "Yeah, right, and I'm the Queen of England." He sat still. No anger, no fear, just stillness. This wasn't the first time he'd been underestimated. But somehow this felt heavier, not because they doubted his title, but because they never even paused to consider it might be true. They never saw him, only what they assumed. At the station, they led him into a holding room, small, cold, windowless. The bench was metal. The lights above flickered slightly. No one asked him more questions. No one checked his ID again. They just shut the door and walked away. He sat down. The cold from the bench crawled through his jacket, into his bones. Still, he remained calm. He thought of the boy with the limp, Khalil. He thought of the little girl crying quietly in the vines, wiping her nose on her sleeve as she carried a basket too heavy for a frame. He thought of the silence of the world that had allowed this to happen. They arrested the man who tried to help, but not the ones who made children work under the sun. In the corner of the room, a small camera blinked red. Ibrahim looked directly at it. "If this is the price of truth," he whispered, "then I'll pay it again." Outside the room, a young officer named Emil passed by and paused. He glanced at the clipboard hanging on the door. Then his eyes narrowed. "Wait," he muttered. "That name."
Officer Emil stood frozen in the corridor, eyes locked on the name scribbled on the intake form. Ibrahim Traoré. His breath caught in his throat. He had heard the name before. On TV, on social media, in quiet admiration whispered by his African colleagues at the precinct. The youngest president on the continent. He walks among his people without bodyguards. A man who eats in markets and builds schools instead of palaces. Could it be him? No, it couldn't. He looked through the small, reinforced window in the door. Inside, the man sat calmly, cuffed to a steel bench, eyes closed, his posture composed. Not like someone arrested, but like someone waiting. Emil hesitated, then rushed to the nearest workstation. He pulled up the station database, typed in the name, Ibrahim Traoré. The screen loaded. News articles, official portraits, UN speeches, videos of him walking through dusty villages, holding babies, confronting corruption. And then a still frame that made Emil's blood freeze. The man in the cell. Same face, same jacket, same calm fire in his eyes. He didn't hesitate. Emil bolted down the hallway and burst into the operations room. "Stop everything!" he shouted. The desk sergeant looked up, annoyed. "What is it now?" "The man in holding room 3, Emil said, voice shaking. "He's not a trespasser. He's not a criminal." "Then what is he?" Emil turned the screen toward them. "He's the president of Burkina Faso." A stunned silence dropped over the room like a curtain. One officer's mouth opened, then closed again. Another stepped back instinctively. "You're serious?" someone asked. Emil nodded. "We cuffed a head of state, and we left him in a holding cell like a common thief." No one moved. Outside the room, the farm manager was laughing with another officer, sipping coffee like it was just another day. Inside holding room 3, Ibrahim sat quietly, unaware that the world outside was just beginning to understand who they had locked away. Emil ran back, keys shaking in his hand. He opened the door. "Mr. President," he said breathlessly, "I'm so sorry. There's been a terrible mistake." Ibrahim looked up slowly, his voice calm as ice. "It's only a mistake if you learn from it." Emil stepped back as Ibrahim stood, rising slowly, like a tide that no one could hold back anymore. "I'll have your things brought to you, sir," Emil said quickly. "We'll notify the embassy, the mayor, everyone." Ibrahim didn't speak at first. He simply stretched his wrists, the skin red from the cuffs, the silence in the room heavier than metal. "I told them who I was," he said softly. "But they didn't listen." "I believe you," Emil said, voice low. "They will too. Now." Ibrahim walked into the hallway, his steps calm, deliberate. Conversations fell silent as officers watched him pass. The same people who had laughed now stood stiff, faces pale. No one dared meet his eyes. The farm manager spotted him and froze. Ibrahim stopped in front of him. "You laughed when they took me away," he said, voice calm but sharp. "You thought this was over." The man's mouth moved, but no words came out. "It's only just begun." Within the hour, word spread. The president of Burkina Faso had been arrested in southern France while investigating child labor. News outlets picked it up. Social media exploded. Hashtags trended. Embassies called. Pressure mounted. By late afternoon, French labor inspectors and child protection officials arrived at the vineyard. They brought vans, medics, translators, and they brought justice. Over 200 children were pulled from the fields. Some had been missing for over a year. Others had no papers, no families, no way home. But now they had hope. Ibrahim returned to the vineyard as the rescue unfolded. A girl no older than 7 was being lifted into a van when she spotted him. "You came back," she said, her voice a whisper. He nodded. "I promised." Khalil limped toward him, tears in his eyes. "They said you were lying." "I know," Ibrahim said, kneeling. "But truth doesn't need permission." Reporters flooded the scene, but Ibrahim refused interviews. He wasn't here for fame. He had seen enough headlines. What mattered now were the children, and the silence finally being broken. He turned to Emil. "Thank you for listening when others wouldn't." Emil nodded, guilt in his eyes. "I almost didn't. I'm sorry." "You did," Ibrahim said, "and that makes all the difference." By the next morning, the story had ignited across every major media outlet in Europe and Africa. Burkina Faso president arrested while rescuing child workers in French vineyard. French police detain foreign leader mistaken for trespasser. He was saving children. 200 kids freed after one man refused to stay silent. The French Prime Minister issued a statement by noon. The mayor of the region held an emergency press conference, and under immense public pressure, the chief of police personally reached out to President Ibrahim Traorè. An official car arrived at the local government building. Inside, cameras clicked. Journalists stood shoulder to shoulder. The mayor, visibly sweating, adjusted his tie for the 10th time. Then the door opened. Ibrahim entered, dressed just as he had been before. No suit, no entourage. Just a man. The mayor rushed forward. "Mr. President, on behalf of our city, our people, please accept our deepest apologies." Ibrahim shook his hand, eyes unreadable. "Thank you." The chief of police, an older man with thinning white hair, stepped forward. "Sir, I cannot begin to express my regret." Ibrahim raised a hand gently. "I accept your apology, but this is not about me." A quiet fell across the room. "This is about 200 children," Ibrahim said, his voice calm but filled with weight. "Children who were not seen, not heard, not believed, until now." A reporter lifted her hand. "Mr. President, will you be pressing charges?" "No," Ibrahim replied, "but I will speak, and I will expect the world to listen." He turned back to the mayor and the chief. "You see, yesterday, I was not a president, not a guest, not even a man. I was just another black face judged before I could speak." Someone in the crowd whispered, "Wow." He continued, "Prejudice is not always loud. Sometimes it wears a uniform. Sometimes it holds a clipboard. Sometimes it's just silence when you need someone to stand up." There were no cheers, just stillness, because the truth didn't need applause. Before leaving, Ibrahim handed the chief of police a handwritten list. "What's this?" the chief asked. "The names of the children you forgot to protect." Then, without another word, he walked out, and the cameras followed. The flight home was quiet. President Ibrahim Traorè sat by the window, staring out at the clouds. No press conference, no interviews. He hadn't come for recognition. He came because someone had to. Across the aisle, his aides scrolled through dozens of articles, messages, and videos that had flooded the internet in just 24 hours. There were clips of crying children being rescued, photos of Ibrahim walking calmly past officers. Hashtags like "He came alone" and
200 freed were trending globally. People were crying in the comments. Others were furious. A few still denied it had even happened. But the story was out, and the world was watching. When the plane landed in Ouagadougou, there were no sirens, no flags waving, just sunlight and silence. At the bottom of the steps, his personal guard waited, eyes glassy with emotion. "Welcome home, sir." Ibrahim nodded, gripping his small bag. "I didn't bring back much," he said quietly. "Just names and faces I won't forget." The guard hesitated. "Sir, if I may, we warned you. We said, don't go alone, that it wasn't safe." "I know," Ibrahim replied. "But tell me this. If I had gone with cameras and soldiers, would those children have told me the truth?" The guard didn't answer. As they walked to the car, Ibrahim stopped beneath a tree and looked at the horizon. "They treated me like a criminal," he said. "And I am the president of a nation. Imagine how they treat the children with no name, no voice, no power." He turned to his team. "Let this be a message. We are not invisible, and we are not powerless. The world may look away, but we will keep showing up." Later that evening, Ibrahim sat alone in his study, watching the video of Khalil being reunited with his aunt in Mali. The boy was laughing, really laughing. And that, more than any apology, was what mattered. He opened his notebook and added one final line under the last child's name. "Free." Then he closed it, placed it on the table, and whispered into the night. "I was only gone 2 days, but I came back with 200 reasons to never stay silent again."